Watch when I drop this tank, no bait. Telling everybody pay me more. And I got a couple bands on me right now, I ain't gonna say no more. She fucked me in the studio cause I could make a chorus. See niggas and they feelings though, what the fuck you hate for?
Quarterback for the Detroit Lions for the most part of 12 long years. Minus 3 major setbacks with injuries, Stafford has been the franchise guy in Detroit since the Lions snuck into the playoffs in 2011. As the Lions sit 1-3 at their bye week and they start to a gloomy season, and the early word around the franchise is now that this team should be purged from top to bottom. Some starting at GM Bob Quinn down to the quarterback and the head coach. The growing argument on Matthew Stafford isn't a new one. And in this video, I will do my best attempt to finally shed light onto who and what Matthew Stafford truly is. And in fact, is it time to move on? So let's take it all the way back, fire up a backwood, and get started. Matthew Stafford was a 5-star recruit out of the famed Texas high school football circuit in Dallas, Texas. Stafford was recruited by Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida State, and the University of Georgia. He committed to the University of Georgia without ever taking an official visit to another school, probably because he watched his father graduate from there as well. To be clear, Matthew Stafford was the #1 quarterback in the entire country when he came out of high school. He went 15-0 and threw for 4,000 yards. Just normal Stafford, huge cannon arm stuff. Before he had ever started a game at the collegiate level, analyst Mel Kiper Jr. predicted correctly that Stafford would eventually be the first pick in the NFL draft. And Mel Kiper never gets anything right. It's just clear to see, for everyone basically, Stafford was as foreshore as a thing as it gets headed into his college career. And the University of Georgia saw it as well because Stafford was the first true freshman to start right out of high school for the Bulldogs since 1991. Stafford got out to a rocky start for the Bulldogs, thrust into the fire as a starter. It was rough, but he got the team moving. And after the starter lost 2 straight home games to Tennessee and Vanderbilt, head coach Mark Richt named true freshman Stafford the starter for the rest of the season. With 6 games left into his freshman year, Stafford took the Bulldogs 4-2, and some really tough losses to Florida and Kentucky, where Stafford threw just 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions combined. But Stafford came back stronger, closing out the season on a 3-game winning streak and only throwing 1 in the total 3 games. Stafford led the Bulldogs on a 12-play, 64-yard drive and threw the game-winning touchdown pass in Georgia's 15-12 win over number 16 Georgia Tech. Not many would know it, but that was the first of many fourth-quarter comebacks for Matt to come. Stafford completed his freshman season by leading Georgia to a 31-24 come-from-behind victory over Virginia Tech in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. After the Bulldogs trailed 21-3 at halftime, Stafford threw for 129 yards and a second-half touchdown to spark the comeback and allowed Georgia to finish the season with a 9-4 record. Stafford finished with 1,749 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. And the legend of the comeback kid was born. Just a quick side note here. This is 2006. Stafford is a freshman and the Lions are 3-13. The quarterback, John Kitna. Take it for what you want, just a side note. 2007, Stafford's sophomore season, Stafford threw for 324 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Bulldogs defeated the Oklahoma State Cowboys 35-14 in the season opener. Against Alabama, the Bulldogs avoided an 0-2 start in SEC play by escaping with an overtime win. Stafford connected with the senior wide receiver Mikey Henderson on the Bulldogs' first play from scrimmage in overtime for the winning score. In the win over number 9 ranked Florida, he completed 11 of 18 passes for 217 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a career-long touchdown pass of 84 yards to Muhammad Massaquoi and a 53-yard touchdown pass to Henderson. The wins over Florida, Auburn, and Georgia Tech marked the first time that Georgia had defeated all 3 rivals in the same season since 1982. And the overtime win over Alabama had the comeback kid legacy growing in Georgia. Stafford helped lead Georgia to an 11-2 record, their best mark since the 2002 season. The team also entered the 2008 season, Stafford finals year at Georgia, with the longest active winning streak among the 66 BCS conference teams, having won its last 7 games of the 2007 season. And Stafford was on the Heisman watch list. He helped lead them to victories in their first 4 games to move the team winning streak to 11. Stafford was going crazy. But Stafford and the Bulldogs suffered their first setback in a 41-30 loss to number 8 ranked Alabama. It's always Alabama, ain't it? Stafford rebounded by helping lead the team to victories in 5 of the next 6 games. Stafford finished the season with a conference-leading 235 pass completions for 3,459 passing yards, the second most in school history, and 25 passing touchdowns, the single-season record for passing touchdowns. And he was far and beyond the best quarterback in his class. He led the SEC in pass attempts and passing completions while finishing 3rd for passing touchdowns. Georgia finished the regular season with a 9-3 mark and qualified for the Capital One Bowl. And after defeating the Michigan State 24-12 and winning MVP of the 2009 Capital One Bowl, Stafford finished his 3 years at Georgia with a 3-0 record in bowl games and a 6-3 record in rivalry games. So, how does this guy go from undefeated in bowl games to winless in the playoffs? How does he go from 6-3 in big-time rivalry games to 0 division titles? I always wonder how Lions fans think one day Stafford just became trash and wasn't a winner, or he was just a loser. I mean, he was literally winning in every level until that fateful draft day. But before we start, I have one more side note. In 2007 and 2008, Stafford played with running back Knowshon Moreno in the backfield. And if y'all don't know about the University of Georgia, Knowshon Moreno was a beast. Just go ahead and look him up. He rushed for 1,300 plus yards and 1,400 plus touchdowns in 2007 and 2008. Meanwhile, the Lions had just gone 7-9 and 0-16. But again, just throwing that out there. Also, Stafford was playing with A.J. Green on the outside as well. So the talent was around him. And credit to the Lions, they did a good job of pairing him with a big, fast wide receiver like he had in college and Calvin Johnson and Kenny Golladay. But again, Moreno was going crazy out of the backfield. 12 years in Detroit, and the Lions have tried to replicate that success, twice, maybe 3 times, maybe. With the most success coming with Calvin and Reggie Bush. Javid Best was a great talent, but, his career was cut short. Kerryon Johnson just couldn't last. And now they finally grab a Georgia back in Swift, and he has a lot of Moreno-like qualities. Too bad it's 2020, though, and it already seems like, too little too late. But let's continue. Stafford is drafted first overall to Detroit, and all he has to do is win a job over veteran quarterback Dante Culpepper. I'm not going to lie to you, from the beginning it was a train wreck. First-time head coach, 0-16 team 1 season ago, trying to change mentalities. 2009 was so bad that, literally, Detroit finished 2-14, with Matthew Stafford going 2-8 in 10 starts. And every quarterback on the roster had more interceptions than touchdowns. Can't make this up. It was brutal. Drew Stanton had 0 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Culpepper had 3 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And Stafford had 13 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. This is with Calvin Johnson on the team, man. It was absolutely disgusting. Stafford got rocked in a Cleveland game and showed just how tough he was, though. And it was Detroit's first glimpse at what Georgia fans had been seeing for 3 years, as the comeback kid made his NFL debut mic'd up. On NFL Mic'd Up and made history. It's nuts. But 2010 was only worse when 3 games into the year, Stafford was knocked out with a separated shoulder again. This is after separating and dislocating it in 2009 and separating his patella in 2009 as well. Not only was Detroit still terrible, finishing 6-10, with Stafford being looked at as soft and now injury-prone, and the name Matthew Glassford is now floating around his own training camps and locker room. But this is a new thing for Stafford, who was known for being the tough guy at Georgia. The comeback kid was on a mission, and it showed in the 2011 season, the magical season that was Stafford's 2011 season. Using the motivation from some teammates and analysis, Stafford bulked up and came into the 2011 season hungry. The Lions opened the season on September 11th against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with high expectations. Stafford played well, throwing for 305 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception in a 27-20 win, the first season opener the Lions had had since 2007. Another strong performance followed, with Stafford throwing for 4 touchdowns, 294 yards, and an interception against the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 2, leading the Lions to a 48-3 blowout win. This is the largest win margin in team history to this day. Stafford won the FedEx Air NFL Player of the Week for his performance. And in Week 3 and Week 4, the comeback kid led the team to consecutive comeback victories. A 26-23 overtime comeback victory over the Minnesota Vikings after trailing 20-0 at halftime in Week 3, and a big-time 34-30 win over the Dallas Cowboys after trailing 27-3 with 12 minutes and 27 seconds left in the third quarter. Week 5 saw Stafford orchestrate a 24-13 win over the Chicago Bears, going 19 for 26 for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. This marked the first time, honestly, the Lions had gone 5-0 since 1956. I almost choked saying that. 1956. The year before they won their last NFL championship. But why? What was so special about that 2011 season that the Lions have not been able to replicate since? And the answer, 100%, all Stafford and Calvin Johnson Jr. It was magical, man. The Lions were 31st in rushing attempts. They did not even attempt to run the ball. They were 29th in yards, completely inept at rushing. The Lions are number 1 in passing attempts, number 4 in passing yards, and number 3 in touchdowns, ranked in the NFL. The defense was 22nd against the pass and 23rd against the runs. So not good by any team. Any team standards, I should say. They're not good by any means. But, Matt Patricia, they're not last in the goddamn NFL. Excuse my language. And guess what? The Lions' leading running back, Javid Best, no cap. He had 300 yards the entire season. 300 yards. Well, 390 yards. Let me give Javid Best his credit. No defense, no run game, no problem. Stafford goes out to have the greatest season in his life at 23 years old. Passing for 5,000 yards, 41 touchdowns. He won 10 games, made the playoffs, and won Comeback Player of the Year. I know it was a while ago, but Lions fans seem to think that Stafford has never dragged this team out of the gutters of irrelevance on his own. Like he's completely incapable, but Well, Megatron might have a word or two to say about that, considering he had 96 catches for 1,681 yards and 16 touchdowns. Imagine comparing Kenny Golladay to this man. But that was the first time Stafford dragged the Lions into the playoffs, but it wasn't his last. Speaking of playoffs, this year always makes me kind of sad. The Lions play a game called Guess Who Didn't Show Up to the Playoffs. It's called everybody. In the Saints' triumph, in which they set an NFL playoff record with 626 yards. I repeat, 626 yards. Both teams combined for an NFL postseason best 839 passing yards. This was the first time that Matthew Stafford was let down by a defensive head coach. Not the last, though. He completed 65% of his passes, threw 3 touchdowns, didn't take a sack, just for the Lions as a team. Just as the Lions for a team. One more time. Just as the Lions as a team to rush for 32 rushing yards. How did I mess that up? 32 rushing yards, guys. Again, 626 yards given up on defense and 32 total rushing yards for the game. Meanwhile, Megatron played his heart out with 2 passing touchdowns, and 12 catches for over 200 yards. Stafford and Megatron, 2 all-time Lions greats, gave it all they had. But like I always say, if you can't run the ball or play defense, it doesn't matter who your quarterback and wide receiver is. Which is why Megatron, Randy Moss, and Terrell Owens are 3 of the top 4 greatest of all time and are ringless. Stay woke. The Lions were clearly not recovered from that, loss, because the next season they started the year off 4-4, but finished 0-8 in the final 8 games. Did Stafford play well in 2012? No, not at all. He completed 59% of his passes, 20 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. But again, it was Stafford, Megatron, and who else? The Lions finished 3rd in the NFL in yards on offense. They had the 3rd most yards in the NFL. They were 1st in pass attempts. They were 2nd in passing yards. They were 2nd in passing touchdowns. And they were 23rd in rushing yards. The offense had no plan. They simply dropped back and threw the ball all day. Stafford was sacked 29 times. The defense was middle of the pack, 14th against the pass and 16th against the run, but undisciplined and shot themselves in the foot. So Stafford went from the playoffs right back to the basement. In 2013, the final year of Jim Schwartz, the Lions started the season off 5-3 at their bye week. Then went on to finish the season 2-6, leading to a 7-9 record in the firing of Jim Schwartz. Stafford had Stafford had over 4,100 passing yards and 29 touchdowns. Reggie Bush had 1,006 rushing yards. Megatron had 1,400 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns. The defense is number 6 against the run, and the offense is top 10 in rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns. So what was the problem? Stafford haters probably tell you he got Schwartz fired. In reality, the Lions had 103 penalties. For the year, it cost them 944 yards, almost 1,000 yards worth of penalties. The Lions had almost 1,000 total yards lost in penalties. And so it's not hard to see how that alone can offset the one season you actually have a good running game. The team was too undisciplined, and this led to the firing of Schwartz. The Lions were 13th in penalties and had the 6th most penalty yards in the NFL. In 2014, the Lions signed Jim Caldwell, and the defense had been hoarding top picks from the draft. Caldwell wanted to rein Stafford in a little bit, and for a while it worked. The Lions blazed out of the gate and was 6-2 at the bye week. It was looking like finally the year for the playoffs and the division title. But somehow the Lions just seemed to always make things harder on themselves. Going 5-3 out the bye week wasn't bad, but a Week 17 loss to Green Bay lost the division and sent the Lions to the wild card. Not the last time Caldwell and Stafford would lose the division, Week 17 to Green Bay. In that game, for the division, Matthew Stafford threw for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. He only was sacked twice. So again, why did they lose? Well, this historical defense has held opponents to under 100 rushing yards for 11 straight games. Ndamukong Suh, Nick Fairley, Ziggy Ansah, Cliff A. I don't know if Cliff A. was on the team. I don't think so. But they was going crazy. They choked, though. Yep. And they gave up 152 rushing yards to Green Bay and 2 touchdowns for the division title. What a great day to flop, right? Shame, old Lions. They lose the division in a game meant for them to win and head to the wild card. But we all know how that ended. The D-line showed up and held Dallas to 73 yards, a nice bounce back. But 3 turnovers on offense, 1 interception by Stafford, and 2 fumbles to go along with a shank punt and the infamous picked up flag. For the first time in a big game, it wasn't the defense or the running game to let Stafford down. Don't get me wrong. Reggie Bush had 8 carries for 39 yards and a fumble. Megatron in his final playoff game had 5 catches for 85 yards. The defense really can't be blamed. They sacked Tony Romo 6 times and forced a turnover. It's just a classic Matthew Stafford era. And no, I can't even blame it on the Stafford era. The Lions had 2 wins Stafford's freshman year in college. So it's just how the Lions like to lose. 8 minutes left in the third quarter, and the Lions have a 20-7 lead. All too familiar. But again, 8 minutes left in the third quarter, and the Lions have a 20-7 lead. Reggie Bush had 8 carries in the game. That's Jim Caldwell. Same old Lions. Stafford throws 300 yards, a touchdown, an interception, fumbles twice, and at the end of the day, picked up flag or not, muff punt or not, Stafford had 3 turnovers. And that is why we lost the Dallas game. But I can't help that this eerie, similar feeling that the Dallas game started a trend of blowing leads that are prevalent up until today. And in all of these games, instead of running the ball, it's as if they set Matthew Stafford up for failure. It's as if they try to force him to win out the game. The comeback kid has made a living off of doing just that in the clutch. But when it matters the most, the Lions are not tactical in their approach. Instead, they panic. They move away from what works and leave Stafford to break the entire game flow, to just throw the game plan out the window and win it himself, with no running game and teams dropping 8 men into coverage. And don't forget, it's guys trying to kill him off the edge. Still, no excuse. When you're labeled the comeback kid and you win, you take all the glory. You're the hero. You get all the stats, trophies, recognition. But when you try it and you lose, you're the scapegoat. Since that Dallas game, Matthew Stafford has taken the Lions to the playoffs once more, with a broken thumb, led by Jim Caldwell in 2016. In a season where the Lions only won 9 games total, Matthew Stafford led the NFL with an incredible 8 fourth-quarter comeback wins. How is that possible? He single-handedly dragged the Detroit Lions and the 30th ranked rushing attack to the playoffs again. It helped that the defense was ranked 18th, which is middle of the pack, because in all honesty, the dude, he only needed defense to get you winning. But without it, that run game, you'll never get over the top. In week 14 of the 2016 season, the Detroit Lions record was 9-4, with 3 games left in the year. Literally, if the Lions win one of these games, just one, if the Lions win one of these games, they clinch the division, win the NFC North, and lock in a playoff spot. Stafford hurts his thumb, and the Lions only score 6 points against the Giants. 6 points. They take the L, and now they're 9-5. Again, Stafford hurts his thumb against the Giants, right? 56 rushing yards in the entire game. Knowing your quarterback is playing with an injured throwing hand, you rush for 56 yards. Same old Lions. Next week against Dallas, the Lions are blown out 42-21. Dallas rushes for 162 yards. And the Lions lose 9-6. Or the Lions lose and their record's now 9-6. And then the next week, in the saddest game in Lions history, a showdown with Green Bay, winner takes all, NFC North division title on the line. And we all know how that one ended. 9-7. Somehow, the football gods allowed us to sneak into the playoffs this season after completely failing down the stretch. And the Lions faced the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card. No cap, this game had the most dropped passes I have ever seen in my life. Nobody could catch. Anquan, Theo, Ebron, Marvin, nobody could catch. Drop passes all over the place. Golden Tate, especially Golden Tate. You guys think the running game showed up? The Lions have 49 rushing yards. 49. Not even 50. 49 rushing yards. I think the defense showed up? Nope. Seattle rushed for 177 yards on us. Completely ran the ball down the Lions' throats, and the Lions are blown out in the playoffs 26-6. Jim Caldwell should have been fired on the spot, and we never should have gotten Patricia in the first place. We should have taken a new coach in 2017 and gave them a shot, but, same old Lions. Caldwell gets another year. The Lions go 9-7, can't beat anybody with a winning record, can't finish games, can't run the ball. Defense is ranked 27th overall. They have 2 losses in one season to 2 separate 32nd ranked offenses, getting blown out by the Baltimore Ravens and losing to the Cincinnati Bengals. 2 games that would have clinched playoff spots, losses. Hindsight is 2020, and 2016 should also have been Stafford's last season on the Detroit Lions. He should have demanded a trade because 2017 and everything from 2017 to 2020 has just been a complete and utter waste of this man's talent, his body, and his career. The run game is just as bad. The defense is still just as bad. And Matthew Stafford is at the age where the hits he took versus the Browns, where he comes back in the game and wins it, toughs it out. Those days are long gone. He's 33 years old, and the iron is wearing thin on this man. The back last year, the thumb this year. The Lions have wasted a Hall of Fame talent at quarterback for too long. And with the Lions firing Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn after the Thanksgiving game, the Lions should be in full rebuild mode moving forward. And Stafford, the Comeback Player of the Year award winner, the comeback kid, the GOAT himself, would lose all respect from me if he doesn't in some way, shape, or form at least attempt to get out of Detroit. He has the cachet in this league as a Pro Bowl vet with multiple NFL records to get out of a 4th rebuild. I know the Lions organization is ran by idiots. I'm sure they have no problem wasting another $100 million on Stafford. But what true competitor would rebuild in Detroit 4 times. It's looking like you're going to have another first-year head coach. So I want you to get this understood. Jim Schwartz, first-year head coach. Matt Patricia, first-year head coach. And now Matthew Stafford is going, in all likelihood, going to have another first-time, first-year head coach for another rebuild. A franchise that has proven over and over again, we're not going to give you a running game. We're not going to give you a defense. And if you do somehow sneak and get a defense on us, we're not going to pay them because, we're paying you. It's a career lose-lose for Matthew Stafford. If he is the man I think he is, he demands out of Detroit. Not because he hates the city, the franchise, or the fans. It's just time. Everybody is so afraid of change. No, the time for change is upon us. I don't care if the Lions and Bevel win out 5 straight and the Lions make the playoffs. If the playoffs doesn't result in a wild card win or a division title win, it doesn't matter. And it's honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. There's a crop of young, talented quarterbacks on the radar, and the Lions have to invest. We have to start over. It's time to purge ourselves of everything associated with the horrible experience we have had over the last 5 years. So take your pick. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, whoever. 2021 is fast approaching, and it's time that somebody else began their legacy in Detroit. And more importantly, for the sake of this video, it's time for Stafford to go and win somewhere. And if you don't care about winning, do what Barry and Calvin did. Call it quits. Retire. But it's time the Lions make it right and set this man free.